Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Still miss Chris Cornell. Dan and Amy and Nancy Pelosi, she's the House Speaker, don't you know? She sat down with Christiane Amanpour.
I love the way you say that.
It's not as good as Don Wade's old Christiana Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah, he's color Kuala.
But it's my own version.
I love when he did that.
They sat down, covered a range of topics, including Ilhan Omar and anti-Semitism within Democrat Party ranks. Pelosi on the topic.
Yes, but I don't think that the Congresswoman is anti-Semitic. I wouldn't even put those in the same category. I think.
But she's being accused of it.
Well, she's being accused of it. We are not. And we have no taint of that in the Democratic Party.
Well, is that right? No taint of anti-Semitism in the Democrat Party, and despite her pronouncements, the sort of generically crafted resolution condemning anti-Semitism that was sparked by Omar's comments, she is also not anti-Semitic. I think one of their colleagues disagrees. His name is Dan McCready. He's a congressman from North Carolina, candidate for Congress in North Carolina. He is returning a donation he received from Omar, Democrat candidate, right?
Really?
Some folks are asking why I directed the return of Omar's donation. I did this weeks ago because I vigorously disagree with any anti-Semitic comments. James Pinkerton, writing in Breitbart, talks about the Democrats' coming Sister Souljah moment, hearkening back to the Clinton era, suggesting that there is going to be a point in time where Democrats are going to have to make a decision about more than just trying to soft pedal the intemperate statements of Omar or Tlaib or the ignorance of Ocasio-Cortez off to the side. They're not going to go away. They're going to have to be confronted, is what Pinkerton is suggesting. And what will Democrats do, perhaps whoever the nominee for president is, what will they do when that moment inevitably comes? For more on this topic, as well as, of course, the Barr press conference that's going to happen in less than an hour, and all things 2020 related. We're pleased to be joined again by Joe Trippi. He's the author of The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, a board member of Vanguard Africa, longtime Democrat strategist, CNN contributor. You remember him from campaigns, including Howard Dean's presidential campaign. Joe, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
No, good to be with you guys.
What about Pelosi's characterization of Omar specifically, you've separate from the party, and the response that her comments have generated, at least from one Democrat candidate for Congress?
Well, look, it's clear that they were controversial. That people are going to read into them what they want, which is bad for her. It's not good to have this conversation going on, particularly relating to anti-Semitism and having that accusation thrown around. And certainly people are going to do that because the way she talked about it can let people interpret it either, that way or getting into what others think she meant or know she meant. In the end, though, it's not a good controversy to have out there for Democrats. But I don't think, again, this is going to be something that is decided. It's not a something that I think taints the party at all. I think it does raise questions about the Congresswoman, but she's going to have to answer those, and choose her words more carefully. I think in the future, hopefully she'll do that. If not, maybe it will have to be dealt with. But I don't really think it's going to create any problems for the party in this election, in the upcoming election.
Well, speaking of using your words carefully, what do you think about former First Lady Michelle Obama comparing America under President Trump is like living with a divorced dad?
Well, I think there'll be divorced dads out there who are good and care a lot about their kids who will be bugged by it. But again, I don't think that one's going to register out there either. I mean, the outrage machine on both sides is going full force, and there's been plenty of outrage about Trump. It doesn't seem to change anybody's opinion of him. I doubt that there's going to be much change in opinion about Michelle Obama or what she meant.
Karl Rove, writing in the Wall Street Journal after Comrade Bernie's town hall with Fox on Monday night, that he's learned, according to Rove, his interpretation was he's learned to soften some of the edges of his socialist prescriptions, and that he is somebody that could win in 2020. Is that your belief as well, that Bernie Sanders is a viable candidate for the Democrats?
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I mean, look, he's got formidable ability to raise money, and I think, like a lot of candidates who've been through it one time, you learn a lot of lessons. I think he has. I agree with Karl that Sanders is a better candidate or more disciplined and honed his message in a better way than last time. I don't. At this point, though, I think this is anybody's. Much like in 2016 for the Republicans, who would have predicted that Donald Trump would have been the nominee this early on. I actually think I was one of the people who said I thought he would be around as long as he wanted to be, just about now in that cycle. Bernie obviously will be as well. Whether he can actually get the nomination or not, he's certainly one of the top contenders for it, for sure.
What's the inside dope, if you'd be willing to share, on Joe Biden? Is that still a green light?
I mean, I don't have any inside info. I think everybody I know expects him to enter the race, although I've talked to plenty of people who've worked with him who are in the know, and what they tell me is, look, the last time I thought he was going to go, in fact, I thought he was going to go the night before we were making the announcement, and the next morning I woke up and found that found him saying he wasn't going to run. So while they're sure he's going to run, they caveat it, their statements with that kind of hesitancy. They're pretty positive he's going, but again, given what happened the last time, they're not 100% sure. No one can be.
And what do you think about the rise in the polling about Mayor Pete from South Bend, Indiana? Why are people slowly falling in love with him, and he seems to be taking attention away from Beto?
Well, I mean, that's one of the things in one of these multi-candidate fields like this is that it's not just your candidacy that's out there. There's a competition, and you could have your shining moment, and then someone else grabs it, and that's clearly what's happened right now, at least with Mayor Pete. He's going through very similar surge that we saw with Beto early on, right after Beto got into the race. That also doesn't mean that there won't be someone else. Look, I was with Howard Dean, obviously, in 2003. We grabbed the limelight and the spotlight for most of this off year going into the election, and I'm going into Iowa and New Hampshire, and then Kerry grabbed it right back, right as we were going to the vote. And of course, the Dean campaign, myself included, made mistakes that helped that happen. But that just, again, you can't, even though Buttigieg is having this amazing surge right now, it doesn't really mean that it'll last. They've got to put their organization together, get the votes in Iowa and New Hampshire. You can surge in the national polls right now, but there are plenty of candidacies like Howard Dean's in 2004 that I was a part of. That these early surges don't really matter if you can't translate that into votes in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, California, in these early states.
It seems to be, we will know in an hour or so, it seems to be, though, that the best hope Democrats can have or will have with the Mueller report is a split decision from Team Mueller on obstruction. If that's the case, in the best case scenario, does it behoove congressional Democrats to continue to beat the Russian collusion obstruction drum up until November of 2020? Or is it going to be a little bit of a two-step where the Democrat presidential candidates and nominee sort of steers clear from it while congressional Democrats do the dirty work? Does that make sense? Or should they just sort of move on altogether?
I don't think we know yet. I mean, I think hopefully we'll know more in roughly half an hour from now. But even that may be doubtful. You may be right that we get sort of this on the one hand. On the other hand, kind of report from Barr out there, with redactions of the Mueller report. But I mean, until we know what's actually in the report. And what's been redacted and what hasn't, I don't think we know. Certainly, I think the committees are going to continue to look into the report, to follow up on it, and I think that this is a long way from being over. I mean, today is a very big moment, obviously, but I think either way. It's still very far from being conclusive. And again, you have the investigations going on in New York and other jurisdictions. There, even if Congress does step away from the Mueller report, it's unlikely that there aren't going to be further developments in these other jurisdictions. So I think this is going to go on for some time. Probably, frankly. Whether the president likes it or not, it's going to, or whether voters like it or not, it's probably likely. The legal part of this is likely to go on throughout his presidency.
Probably so, but do you think impeachment is off the table at this juncture, or Democrats still want to pursue this?
I don't think anybody can answer that till we see I mean, maybe within moments after getting the report that's off the table. I just don't know until we see it.
Okay. He's Democrat strategist Joe Trippi. The book he's written, The Revolution Will Not Be Televised. He's a board member of Vanguard Africa and a CNN contributor. Joe, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Oh, good to be with you guys. Take care.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's morning.